All right, let's talk about the primary causes of transmission jerks. So, hydraulic faults, which account for about 45% of cases, typically involve pressure control solenoids or valve body wear that disrupts fluid flow. It's kind of like when a sticky faucet restricts water, same idea here, but with transmission fluid. Now, electronic issues make up around 30% and often come from speed sensor inaccuracies or control module communication errors. These problems can cause the system to miscalculate shift timing, which, leads to those jerky shifts. Mechanical failures are responsible for about 15% of cases and usually show up as worn clutch plates or torque converter damage. You might even notice metallic debris in the fluid or hear some abnormal noises. Software corruption, which happens in about 7% of cases, can pop up after electrical work. And then, there are external factors, things like engine misfires or broken mounts, that can mimic transmission symptoms, but that's only about 3% of the time. Alright, so let's talk about the critical diagnostic protocol. It's pretty important to follow a step-by-step process when you're troubleshooting transmission issues. Always start with fluid inspection. Low-level or degraded fluid actually causes about 40% of jerk cases, which is honestly a lot more common than folks realize. Never perform a flush if metal particles are present. This usually means there's a mechanical failure, and it requires immediate intervention. Don't wait around on that one. All right, next up, you'll want to scan those transmission control modules for any hidden codes and, analyze the live data while you're out on a test drive. Pay special attention to things like torque converter slip, RPM, and how quickly those solenoids are responding. Now, electronic faults usually show up as erratic sensor readings, while mechanical issues tend to cause pressure drops that fall below OEM specs. And honestly, it's best to prioritize non-invasive checks before you start tearing into the transmission itself. So, let's go over some repair solutions you might consider for the issues you've found. So, for low-cost repairs, a fluid exchange using the manufacturer-specified ATF actually resolves about 1/4 of hydraulic-related jerks, especially when it's done early. And, sometimes a simple software reset can fix adaptive learning corruption too. Component-level repairs usually target things like failed solenoids or sensors. Just remember, it's important to use the manufacturer's torque specs during installation, that way you can prevent any valve body damage. Major overhauls come into play when clutch packs or torque converters fail. In these cases, you should always replace both the converter and any contaminated fluid. And, just a heads up, aftermarket valve body kits might need a bit more calibration compared to OEM units. So, let's talk about prevention strategies. It's really all about being proactive and taking some simple steps to keep your transmission running smoothly. It's super important to stick to the recommended fluid change intervals, which is usually every 60,000 miles. And make sure you're using the exact fluid specifications, because using the wrong viscosity actually causes about 20% of hydraulic failures. Try to minimize low-speed creeping, since that can really add to heat degradation over time. Also, if you notice any engine performance issues, address them right away. Misfires can actually trigger false transmission fault codes, which is definitely something you want to avoid. After any repair, software recalibration is, honestly, essential for getting that shift quality back to normal. And hey, regular scanning for pending transmission codes is a smart move. It lets you catch problems early before the jerking gets really bad.